Caged Bird by Silena B. There once stood a castle of a small quaint kingdom, which stood near the bank of a magical river. The river itself stood of no importance. The castle, however, held a story. The castle wasn't large, yet it wasn't small either. It went up several floors and down a couple. Now this castle held a tower, a single tower, which housed one room. Well, it was a large room, with all the amenities that a person needed to live. Now, the room was home to someone, the princess of the castle, whose father was the king, the very man who inherited the castle from his father, the man who built the castle. Therefore, the princess stood to be the third strain of the castle's royalty. The princess also stood to be a very beautiful girl with spectacular powers. After all, she held the power of an angel, the reincarnated angel of beauty. She had always been beautiful, even as a child, and thus her father had held her locked within the tower, with no connection to the outside world besides the one large window that overlooked the land from the towering tower. For years the girl was lonely. She had no one to play with, no one to speak with, and no prince to dance with. No, she was but a young princess locked within her father's castle. It was then that the girl had taken up her finer hobby, singing. The princess had learned to sing, and had loved doing so. Singing passed the days away, one by one. She sung for hours on end, stopping only for when the servants brought for her meals, helped her bathe, and the occasional visits from her father. Upon reaching the age of 11, the girl had grown, continuing to be beautiful and remaining to her lonely tower room. Yet one day a bird was lured to her room through the open window, called by her songs. The bird wasn't especial at all, and merely whistled along with the princess's melodies. The princess acknowledged the bird and befriended the creature, calling it to live with her within her lonely tower. The bird seemed to accept the request of the lonely girl and began to dine and sing with the princess of the tower. 5 more years had passed, and the bird had been influenced by the princess's glorious songs, absorbing some of the magic of the lyrics, growing beautiful of its own rights, and most of all, gaining the gift of word. The bird had learned to speak thanks to the magic in the princess's lyrics, and the princess had learned of a gift she had. She had learned that she had the power to call forth wings, glorious wings, just like the bird she had befriended. With such wings she could fly through the open window and far away from her lonely tower, and yet she didn't know how to fly. Alas, the princess had naught to do but sing and live, even though she was a goddess of a young woman by that time, dreaming of the day when she could meet the one just for her, and how they would travel throughout the land, learning tales and gaining wisdoms. However, she remained locked within the tower. At least she had a friend, the enchanted bird she had befriended. One day, however, as the princess looked out upon the land, she sighed. "Oh, how I wish I knew of lands beyond my sight," she had said. The bird looked upon her. "The land would love your song just as I," said the bird. The princess gazed upon her feathered friend and smiled. "Oh, what a lovely idea I have," she said. "You can carry my song upon your wings, and carry a song from lands beyond back to me." "That I can," said the bird, "and that I will, if all you desire." "It shall be dangerous," the princess said to her feathered friend. "There might be evil and hunt for your flesh." "I shall not fall," the bird had said, perching upon the window sill. "I shall fly this instant to carry your song, and return when daybreak calls." "Oh, do be careful," the princess said, "for I cannot fly after you." "Your wings are grand, princess," the bird said, "and yet the time to spend them is not yet. I shall return, my friend. Do guide me home with your song." "Then go, my friend, do sing, carry my song upon your violet wing," the princess said. And so the bird flew away through the open window, leaving the princess to sing alone within the room, gazing out towards lands beyond. The bird returned, just as promised, as daybreak came. He had sung her song throughout the night, and returned to sing the song of lands far beyond. Thus he did, singing a song of the lands he had passed and the people he had seen. Hearing the tale, and after a long night of waiting and singing, the pair decided to rest. The day passed by before evening fell again, and the bird again flew out towards lands beyond, again carrying the princess's song from the tower before returning at daybreak. This carried on for several weeks, allowing the princess to learn of the land. Even then, the bird continued to fly to lands beyond the castle, and had come to find a favorite perch, lying in a glade. Perched upon a tree, beside a crystalline stream, within the glade at midnight, the bird sang the princess's song. The bird did so for 3 nights, unhindered from its lyrics about a lonely princess with angel wings high within a sapphire tower. On that 3rd night, however, a young man rode through on horseback, and found himself called by the sad little tale the bird did sing about. He called out to the bird, "What be the lady's name, sweet bird?" The bird did stop its song, and turned toward the young man of 17. "She be an angel named Sapphire," replied the bird. "Does she sing as sweet as you?" the young man asked. "Even sweeter," the bird replied. "Yet her voice reaches not beyond the castle's walls and keep." "How sad," the young man said, "that she cannot sing beyond those walls. She must be alone, be lonely still." "Oh, that she is," said the bird, "even as I, her friend, am there. She longs for even more. She desires her kind, and yet was kind enough to give me the gift of word." "She sounds so sweet," the young man said. "It is sad that she has no companion. At least she has you to carry her song." "I am her friend, that I am, and yet my power is waning," the bird said. "I fear she shall end up alone again before she meets another companion. My only desire is for her to find the one she desires." "Say," the young man said, "carry my words to her, and I shall be her companion. You see, I too am lonely, kept within the reach of my father and my brother. They desire me not to travel this world. They have held me back, have kept me weak, and yet I am stronger than they think." He placed a hand upon the crest above his heart. "My strength lies here." "Kind man, I believe your words," the bird said. "Now, tell me your statement, so that I can carry such upon my wings." "Very well," the young man said. And so the young man told the bird his words before the bird took back to the sky, returning to the princess in the tower. The bird had returned earlier than the princess had expected. "What be your haste?" the princess asked. "I bring words," the bird replied. "Words?" the princess inquired. She seemed to be almost shy at the statement. "Yes, I met a man. He called out to me and asked me of you," the bird said. "He asked me of me to carry his words to you." "Someone sends words to me?" the princess asked, almost ecstatic. She had never heard word from someone beyond the castle. "Oh, my friend, what be these words?" she asked. And so the bird told her. The words were nothing special, just simple things as who he was, and how he felt when he heard the bird sing the song. Most importantly, though, was a request to have the bird return at the same time the next day with a reply. The day passed by, and it seemed to the princess as though evening would never come. She had been overjoyed with the message from the land beyond. She was more than happy to give her reply to the young man, whose name was Reuben. And so, after hearing the words of the princess, the bird carried the words upon his wings and returned to the glade to meet the young man. The man stood waiting, seemingly worried until the bird did arrive, to which he seemed overjoyed. The bird relayed the words to the young man, who listened to every word before sending a message back to the princess. Such a cycle carried out for several weeks, which turned into months, until over a year had passed since the young man had called to that bird. By then, the Princess Sapphire had learnt everything about Reuben, who had turned out to be a prince. It was unfortunate that the princess would discover that Reuben stood to be the second son of the kingdom her father waged war against. It mattered not to either of them, however. The two had seen beyond their parents' disagreements, and their parents' intent to keep them both locked away from the world beyond. Both had become wise in that year of both each other and the world beyond. They be nothing but a princess in a tower and a prince in a glade, no more. They held knowledge, and with such they had come to a plan. You see, though the princess could not fly with her wings, she knew that she could use them to glide, as her friend the bird had explained how to do. The prince knew that he could escape from his father and brother's grasp. For once a month he was allowed a horse to ride throughout the glade, and recently he had come across an old path which led towards the direction the blue bird flew nightly. He would go to her and wait to catch her, as the princess would use her wings to glide from the tower. Then they would have ridden off together, and never to be seen by their parents again. The plan seemed perfect. However, the plan, while spoken to the princess, had been overheard by her father. Furious, her father had taken up his chance and had barred up the tower's windows, leaving no way for the princess to use her wings. She had cried. Oh, how she had cried, even as the bird had carried the news to the prince within the glade. There he cried. It all became so hopeless, and yet he held to hope, sending a message to the princess that he'd discover a way. They began to carry messages upon the wings of the bird once again. Such a thing carried on for a year. By then the two had fallen hopelessly in love with each other, not being able to tell anyone. The sad part was that they had never met. Both remained captives of their own family, young adults kept away from happiness and each other, all because of powers that they held within their bodies, powers they did not desire if it meant not having each other. Something even more sad came to be. The bird, the princess's friend, for years informed them that he had grown ill, that he'd not longer be able to carry the messages upon his wings. So they sent one final message to each other, both promising to find a way. Then, after 7 years of friendship with the princess, the bird passed away. The princess cried, singing a sad tale that echoed throughout the castle, striking discord within the guards and soldiers kept in the castle. The princess's power had indeed grown strong. It had enchanted her songs to affect the heart of man. The song upset the castle's inhabitants, wishing to not hear the princess's song any longer, and yet the only man who desired to hear the princess's songs was far away in a glade, lonely once more. This carried on for days as the princess sang her song, despair filling the hearts of the soldiers that fought her father's war with Reuben's father. It wasn't long, a month to the day since the princess's last word with Prince Reuben, that the princess's father was forced to surrender to his army. His long-kept keep was falling. Thus he was forced to sign away his kingdom. With the signing away his kingdom, the princess's father did one more daring feat. He signed her away. He had signed her away to the eldest son of his enemy, who stood to be Reuben's elder brother. The princess had come to this knowledge of such from a servant that had brought her meals, a maid that had once been forced to swear never to speak with her, and yet the maid knew of the princess's plight and love for the young son of the enemy king, Prince Reuben. That night, gazing upon the sky and the land beyond, the princess pleaded to whatever force could hear her words. "Oh, please, O gods, grant me my freedom from this tower," she had cried. That night, as she turned away from her window, she heard the barred shutters come apart, drawing her attention back. Clambering to the window, the princess discovered that there was a free path to the outside once again. It was her chance, her only chance. It had been a year since a path laid free for her. She could use the window to glide to the ground and rush towards the glade where Reuben would surely await. No, the princess knew he was there. She could feel him. Standing upon the ledge, she glanced down before glancing towards the land beyond the forest she hoped to glide to. Bidding no farewell to her quaint little room, the princess jumped. As she did, she called forth her wings, and yet they did not sprout from her back as they had once did. It was then she heard a voice. "You have gained your freedom. The price was your wings." The princess fell to her death that day. The news had reached her father's enemy's ears quite quickly. So what of Prince Reuben's reaction of her death? Alas, he had not even heard of the surrender. had fell prey to an illness and had died just a week after their final message to the princess. He was there, however, within that glade. The only place he had ever felt alive was where he lay dead. The princess had been buried in a quiet area of the garden of her father's palace, never once having fully gained her freedom. With these deaths, though, came about a curse to their parents' kingdoms. Prosperity fell, and with it those kingdoms, as haunting melody echoed through the castle where the princess had been kept and locked away from her entire life, and a haunting well within the castle where the prince had died. They had wished to be together, longing to unite and live, to exist and merely see the world beyond their private prisons, and yet the caged bird had fallen.